Understanding the Mediterranean diet is acknowledging that it's more than a flavor profile. It's actually a complete way of eating and even living. Hi, my name is Lori Wuellner, Health and Food Safety Agent for K-State Research and Extension in Wyandotte County, and I am pleased to bring you today's program, The Mediterranean Diet, More Than a Flavor, It's a Way of Living. In the title, I use the word diet with some caution because it often reflects a negative connotation, a restrictive way of eating that you start and then you stop after a certain period of time, or perhaps a certain amount of weight loss or health gained. That the Mediterranean way is for every day with no beginning and no ending. Now, as a side note, you'll want to make sure that the volume is up on your computer before we move on. This is just a reminder that K-State Research and Extension programming is available to all people. In February, I was fortunate to attend a conference in Manhattan, which also included hands-on cooking presented by Dr. Carolyn Dunn from North Carolina State University. We made about 18 to 20 dishes from the recipe section of the website, Med Instead of Meds, created by Dr. Dunn along with other colleagues. And it's basically the Mediterranean diet with a twist. I apologize for the busyness of this slide and all the words, but I thought it clearly defines the intention of the med instead of meds. In short, it is a way of eating which may result in decreasing medications taken for certain types of conditions, including blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes. The website tries to make this information applicable regardless of where you are in your health journey. So what I'm sharing today with you largely comes from the med instead of meds. The objectives are fairly straightforward. First, we are going to take a look at the 7 characteristics or steps of the med way. Secondly, identify the foods that contribute to good health. And lastly, how are you going to use this information? What are the steps that you'll take to apply what you've learned today? The first objective is to take a look at the 7 steps, eating the med way. And we'll talk about each one of these in more detail. And just know that when we get to the specific ones, the specific steps, you'll see a short video and a link at the end, at the bottom of the slide. And you'll want to check that out. They're only about 2 minutes, but it will give you recipe suggestions and more information. It would be worth your time to take a look at it. But we're going to start number 1 with protein. What I like specifically about the med instead of meds are these continuum charts from eating more often on the left to less often on the right. And this is really helpful when it comes to making food choices as well as making substitutions. And if you look at this chart, you can see that the emphasis is placed on plant-based foods, which is very much a hallmark of the Mediterranean way of eating. We'll start first with the beans, nuts, and seeds, and it's recommended to eat these items often. Eating more plant-based proteins is a great way to improve your health. They are an excellent source of healthy fats, protein, fiber, the phytochemicals with antioxidant properties. So try replacing some of the meat in your diet with beans, nuts, and seeds more often, preferably every day. The fish and seafood are next, and it's suggested to eat fish and seafood 2 to 3 times at least per week in the amount of 3 to 4 ounce serving sizes, and making one of those servings a high-fat fish such as salmon for the omega-3 attributes. And I know this kind of goes without saying, but try to really limit the fried types of fish. And the white meat and poultry from chicken and turkey without skin is a good source of lean protein and is lower in saturated fat than most red meat. Eggs, fat-free dairy from yogurt and milk are next to follow. Eggs are an excellent source of high-quality protein and can be beneficial for people who don't eat meat. You are actually allowed up to 7 per week. Next, the meats, you'll want to choose lean options, lean or extra lean, pork, beef, veal, lamb, for example. And a good guide is to look for the words loin or round on the label. Other suggestions include cuts with minimal marbling, which is the fat distributed throughout the cut of the meat, or visible fat, and opt for lower percentage fat when selecting ground meats. As we move down the chart, you can see the foods weighing more in on the eat less continuum, including dark meat poultry, high fatty types of dairy, and fattier cuts of meat. And at the far right are highly processed meat, in which it is recommended that you greatly limit or perhaps even eliminate, depending upon where you're at in your health, the processed meats such as bacon, sausage, and most deli meats. All right, I want to show you this quick video, and I'll just show you the one, but bear with me because I have to change out my slides so you can adequately hear it and see it.
The traditional diet of the Mediterranean region is one of the world's most delicious and healthy ways to eat. Eating the Medway can help you feel your best. So, how can you begin eating the Medway? Well, it's just a matter of making simple changes to your regular meals and snacks. Med Flips help you transform popular foods into tasty Mediterranean-style dishes. And Med Tips give you practical advice for eating the Medway every day. An important step in eating the Medway is to change the protein in your diet. Replace red and processed meats with plant proteins, seafood, and white meat poultry. Changing the protein in your diet is easy and delicious with these Med Flips. Flip that burger. Mushroom beef burgers replace half the meat with mushrooms. Or change your protein completely by using fish to make our tuna burger or salmon burger. You can also flip your burger by using beans and nuts. Try our quinoa pinto bean burger, yummy lentil sliders, and tempting mushroom almond burger. All of these recipes are easy to prepare and simply delicious. Another great way to make a Med change is to flip your pasta sauce. Replace the ground beef in your sauce with vegetables, beans, poultry, or seafood. Give our mouth-watering whole wheat pasta with beans and greens a try. Or impress your family with our basil shrimp and tomato pasta with feta. Spice up your week by flipping your traditional ground beef tacos for our mushroom beef tacos. Or try our fish tacos with avocado mango salsa. Following these simple Med tips will also help you change the protein in your diet. Choose plant proteins such as beans and nuts often. Beans are a flavorful addition to sides, pasta, burgers, and salads. Eat seafood at least 3 times a week. We have lots of seafood recipes to get you started. Check out all these tasty recipes, along with other helpful resources at medinsteadofmeds.com.
All right, bear with me as I go back to my other slide. Sorry about that. All right, so that's number 1, change your protein. Number 2 is swap out your fats. In this chart, you can see the continuum starting with unsaturated and moving on to the right to saturated, and then lastly, the trans fats. The unsaturated fats are generally found in plants or seafood and have been shown to have health promoting properties. The fats that fall into the saturated category are generally found in animal products such as meat and butter and dairy items, and in contrast to the unsaturated fats, have not been found to have health promoting properties. And last on the list are the trans fats or partially hydrogenated fats found in processed food, fried food, baked goods, and often convenience and freezer types of foods. And these have been shown to, in contrast, to have harmful effects to our health. So as a consumer, try to choose olive oil, and there's some more specifics on the next slide, more often replacing those solid fats and other types of oils with olive oil. Try and aim, one resource said, to consume at least 4 tablespoons per day while keeping within your caloric budget. Olive oil is the primary source of dietary fat for the Mediterranean diet, used for cooking, baking, for dressing salads, drizzling over vegetables and baked fish, for example. And there are 3 very simple rules to consider when choosing your olive oil. Number 1, you want to select oil in a darker bottle for protection from light and also to lengthen its shelf life. Number 2, choose extra virgin olive oil, EVOO, which is the preferred oil for cooking and sauteing, poaching, baking, using as a dressing, and again, drizzling over veggies and seafood. It's the highest type of oil, highest quality, and is considered superior in its flavor and taste. Third, you want to make sure that you're reading those expiration labels, checking that expiration date, the use by or the best by date. And remember, olive oil does not have to be expensive. You can get very good quality oil at a reasonable price. The third is snack on nuts and seeds. So you want to choose at least 3 ounces of nuts and seeds per week, while again keeping within your caloric budget. Other resources suggested eating a small amount of nuts or 1 ounce each day as a replacement for processed snacks. And of course, really try to avoid the nuts and seeds that have all the sugar and highly salted also. When it comes to purchasing nut butters, be it almond or peanut butter, there are some very good basic recommendations, starting with, of course, reading the label. But beyond that, choosing a product with the fewest ingredients and minimal amount of sugar and salt added. There's a very good chart in the Med Instead of Meds website that takes 3 different butters and compares them, looking specifically at that label. So it might be worth taking a look at that. The next 2 slides on fruits and vegetables will give you serving suggestions. So in this case, for fruit, at least 2 cups a day. And just the message of eating them often by including them in meals and snacks. And of course, always selecting a variety. Variety just gives you that mix of nutrients that you need on a daily basis for good health. Now, while buying and eating in season is often preferred, don't overlook the canned and frozen with little or no added sugar and salt. Also, frozen can be a great way to reduce food waste. So you're just simply taking out what you need and can use. Number 5, eat more vegetables. So again, the recommendation, 3 servings of veggies per day, choosing a lot of great color, the dark greens, orange, leafy greens. And I'm not saying that corn isn't an appropriate vegetable, but 2 cups of corn is probably not what we have in mind here. But 2 to 3 cups of a variety, and corn can be part of that. But including just the different types of colors, just take a look at your plate and how does it look? What does the color scheme look like? I know you're familiar with the My Plate image, but just as a reminder, I've got it up here on the screen. In looking at the divisions on the plate, notice the portion of the vegetables. It is the largest on the plate, and that is for good reason. Many studies have linked consuming a variety of veggies in the right amount to good health. Now, this is just a concept that we can't state enough. The sixth is make your grains whole. So again, if you look at this continuum chart on the whole grains, you'll see that we start with the fruits and vegetables that we just talked about and the legumes that we talked about in the protein section, ending with the high sugary foods and beverages, which is very telling. In short, consume whole grains more often than those that are refined or that have largely white grains and flour. When grains are refined or processed, we miss out on the bran and the germ portion, which is where all those wonderful nutrients, the vitamins and fiber and minerals are found. So basically, processing eliminates valuable nutrients that our bodies need. An example of whole grains, of course, would be brown rice or whole wheat or oats or quinoa, and that list goes on. But it just comes down to reading your labels and selecting foods that have whole grain ingredients listed first, and of course, being mindful of the added sugar and trying to keep that to a minimum. The last one, rethink your sweets. As someone who loves her sweets, me, this chart really hits home. It illustrates what we are actually consuming to the tune of 23 teaspoons of added sugar compared to where we should be at the minimum of 6 teaspoons for a woman and 9 for men. In general, limit your sugar intake and choose no more than 3 servings per week of high sugar foods and drinks. So, this would be your sugary type of sweetened snacks and candies and beverages and desserts, and the list goes on. And as we take a closer look at this chart, you can see it has some great recommendations for cutting back on sugar in this light blue box on the slide that's off here to the right and in the corner. Starting with reading your labels and choosing foods as close to its natural form, and opting for unsweetened versions of foods, for example, unsweetened yogurt, unsweetened instant oatmeals, where you would just be able to control the amount of sweetness that you add back into it. Just add a small amount, maybe a little drizzle of honey, or even better yet, just natural fresh fruit. If you recall the second objective, it was to identify how foods in the Mediterranean diet contribute to good health. I thought it was interesting in a Tufts University article on the benefits of the Mediterranean diet. It said, quote, "The guidelines of the Mediterranean diet, which is based on plant foods, fish, extra virgin olive oil, along with very little meats and sweets and saturated fat, is smart eating, no matter what you call it." So you can label it whatever you want, basically, but the Mediterranean way of eating is just smart. If you go into, again, that Med Instead of Meds website, you will find this chart, and you can click on those down arrows over to the right, and it will give you the reference for each one of these health claims. Besides eating a variety of foods, which we've talked about, and again, mostly in the form of plant-based, other hallmarks of the Mediterranean lifestyle, according to other resources that I saw, include small amounts. So really looking at your plate. And maybe that's just one simple change that we can make without completely overhauling types of foods that you eat. It's just watching portion control in the beginning. Also, eating in the company of others and just enjoying that social time together. Being leisurely with your eating and practicing that mindful eating and not eating on the go, which often leads to mindless eating and often overeating. One source I saw suggested eating 2 main meals per day at the table, lasting at least 20 minutes each. So slowing down and being intentional. Of course, being active every day is one of the recommendations for good health and definitely in the Mediterranean lifestyle. And we're not talking just, cramming an hour in the gym, but being moving and being active throughout the entire day. In the middle, you can see the red wine in the amount of 5-ounce portions, one for a woman and 2 servings for men. And of course, with doctor's approval. And you don't have to drink alcohol, if you don't already drink. So don't think it's necessary to start. I did see another source that said drinking purple grape juice may have the same attributes as the red wine. This brings me to the third objective, which was to apply those specific goals for incorporating Mediterranean foods and habits into your life. We know that information and knowledge is a wonderful tool to have in our back pocket, but we also know the challenge is in the application. So think about the steps that you'll take to apply some of what we talked about today. Will it be perhaps opting for leaner, even smaller cuts of meat, or maybe going meatless for a meal? Most of us, I would think, would benefit from increasing our vegetable intake and perhaps cutting back on sugary drinks and foods throughout the day. So just decide what that will look like for you and commit to it. This slide gives some other really good ideas, including taking a look at your menu, which is the first bullet here. It's a sample menu with some other very good thinking outside the box ideas. We sometimes get stuck in our menu planning. Trying out some of the recipes in the Med Instead of Meds website. There's a variety, and so I'd recommend giving them a try. The third is just being intentional about planning your meals and really evaluating how is your variety throughout the week. And lastly, you might want to check out some of these webinars. They're about an hour in length, but they really take you a little deeper into some of these topics. And you'll have to fill out a quick form in order to access them, and then you'll be given a password, but then you're ready to go. I hope today's lesson broadened your understanding of the Mediterranean style of eating to the point that you will take action. As with any change in lifestyle, you'll meet success for the long haul if you start in increments and small steps and just continue working towards your goals, being very specific and intentional. For more information on nutrition, food safety, and health, please don't hesitate to reach out to me through email or give me a call. I look forward to talking with you, and until then, take care and be healthy.